Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you another conversation that I had on the Frugal Spender podcast with somebody in the personal finance space. Somebody who is actually quite influential on me in getting out of debt and is also quite influential here on YouTube. My conversation today is with Jennifer Kempson, aka Mamafurfur. And if you haven't come across Jennifer before, she is an award-winning content creator from Scotland, best-selling author and entrepreneur. She has nearly 100,000 subscribers here on YouTube and has dedicated the last few years of her life to try and help people improve their financial situation. We have a great conversation in this episode covering quite a lot of ground, from a growth mindset to a holistic approach to money and going self-employed. Speaking of going self-employed, today's video is sponsored by Osome. I distinctly remember when I went self-employed and set up my business, it took me days to get all the paperwork together that I needed to get the legal stuff done. If only I knew I could have done it in 6 minutes for £12, because it really is that easy to set up a business with Osome. They've helped set up 11,000 businesses hassle-free. Osome manages business registration, papers of incorporation, what even is that? And gets you pre-approved for the best bank accounts for your business. Zero paperwork and an actual human being that you can ask questions to along the way. Now that has to be better than dealing with Companies House or HMRC. So when you're done watching this video, click the link in the description and go and see how Osome can help you. Right, intro. Hello, Jennifer, aka Mamafurfur. Welcome to the Frugal Spender Podcast. How are things with you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Very, very good. First of all, I want to say thank you for kind of the content that you've created over the years. You helped me stay motivated through getting out of debt
Okay.
3 years ago. You were one of probably 3 channels that I binge watched when I first YouTubed personal finance.
Who were the others? Now we have to.
No, I can tell you. One I've been Meaningful Money, so Pete Matthews. So I've been on his podcast. I've told him the same thing. I'm very open about that. And the third was Dave Ramsey, and I actually have told him as well on his own. I called into his podcast, his chat show, maybe 2 years ago, and I asked him a question, and I told him that too. So I have done the full round robin of the 3 people that helped me get out of debt.
I think that to be in that lineup, I'm going to take that as a token woman. I like that.
It's a pretty good Mount Rushmore, that I think, just to be sitting next to those 2. But no, honestly, that's the first thing I want to say. Thank you very much. The content you have created has certainly helped me, and probably I wouldn't be creating content had I not got to the end result of being out of debt as a result of some of the stuff that you've done. So thank you very much. It's been really good to watch your journey from when I first started watching you to where you are now, going through sort of a lot of changes, one of which I can resonate with massively is kind of leaving your full-time,
Yep.
we'll call it corporate if you want.
Yep.
My job previously definitely wasn't corporate. Well, some say it is, but being in the police. So I kind of took a weird direction off that. And it's interesting to see. I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on what it was like leaving and taking that big leap from being employed, having that sort of safe paycheck perhaps, to jumping into the unknown.
Oh wow. Okay. So a nice easy question at the start then.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So probably similar to a lot of people, I didn't wake up one day and decide I'm going to leave my job. It was very much that I built what I call a buffer, first of all. So by the time I was thinking of leaving my job, second maternity leave, it really kind of hit me that I didn't have freedom of choice. So I'd been working in the corporate world 12, 13 years, IT sales, gone from university straight to work, as you're meant to do. And when I was on that second maternity leave with my youngest, I realised that I had no choice but to work full time, put my child to either my parents or somewhere else. And we had debt, we had all these bills, and there was no way to crunch the numbers other than 2 people had to work full time. And I just thought to myself, that is no way that I'm meant to live. I should have freedom as a mother, as a father, whatever, to design life and for corporate life to fit in that as best as I can. So that was really the turning point for me. And from that moment onwards, I was inspired because I had a family and I wanted life to be different, that I picked up every single personal development book. I started going on YouTube. I started reading websites and people talking about passive income, people talking about designing businesses. I'd had a business before, about 10 years before that. I ran a dance school. So I knew it was just part of me to like kind of give service. And so my youngest is now 6. It was a good 3-4 years, that kind of part of his life, where I was simultaneously working 9 to 5, but also thinking, okay, how can I serve people? How can I make money passively, semi-passively, so that we're starting to get, a comparison. You don't just have a job and then flip the switch, well, not in my case, straight over. So that kind of went on. And there was one moment where obviously I started a YouTube channel. I felt inspired to do that. I started a blog. And I remember the month where it happened, where my day job equaled my blog, my YouTube money, everything combined. And it was like, oh, this is, again,
it's possible.
This is possible. But not only that, I'm working when I choose, but I'm passionate, and it's growing, it's compounding. And obviously we love a good compounding analogy. And that month, I really got a sense of this could actually be possible, where you have a business that you love and passionate about, but also you can design life. And so that was, as I say, that was probably a good 2-3 years ago, perhaps. And then last January, so nearly 2 years ago, I left corporate world. And I should say, as part of that journey as well, my husband at the time, now going through a divorce, I was able to retire him first, and then I left the corporate world. So from that month of making equal to my day job, it was exponential. So it's not, and that's the beautiful thing, it's not like a corporate world where it's like the set wage. It's not predictable. It's not, you don't know where the reward is going to come. So in answer to your question, that's the excitement of having your own business as well, or being passionate, or thinking of ways. It's never going to be linear. I had also built up a buffer fund, which meant we had months of savings. Can we do this? And trust me, it was it was edge of my seat. This is like, I'm leaving it. And now this part of my journey I'm in, where I'm now single, I'm a single parent, I'm paying all my bills, I'm doing that. I'm in that process again, where I've had to trust that my business, it has funds there and I'm using them. But every day I still get up and I'm kind of taking a bit of a break and just working when I want. Every day I trust and go, okay, I'm still serving, I'm still producing what I think's right in this season right now. And the money is still appearing. And it's not just the money, it's also that kind of fulfillment piece. And I really do, I love that journey of my story, of almost the letting go and just moving from fear to faith that something is possible. So that's
I think it's interesting because you've obviously been through that journey of kind of being employed, taking that leap, even though financially, you would have been okay. You're still, I know what it's like to be self-employed now. You're always worried, regardless of how much of a buffer you have, there's always this anxiety almost of like, is there going to be money coming in? How long is it going to last? Whether you kind of, it's staring at you in the face and it is actually a problem or not. I think it's always kind of in the back. So the fact that you've taken that leap previously, you at least know that chances are it's going to be okay in the future. So even though you're in a new chapter in your life.
Like I always joke and I say, look, if you experience running your own business, if you had to, you'd probably do something like, okay, let me work for Amazon, or let me, you'd figure it out, and then you go, right, come on, especially if you've got kids, you're like, no, I'm making sure they're getting fed. So you've got to take those leaps of faith sometimes, and they're scary. But in my journey, for me, it was, I had to make sure there was that buffer. It felt like a graduation. There was those kind of key points where it felt good. For someone else, I know that they can flip and just go, no, I'm going to do it. But that was certainly my journey.
I think I would have been more likely to have taken a jump because I'm a good balance of pessimistic and optimistic. So I think I can, if there's a job that I hated, I've done it previously. The job before I had last, actually, I thought to myself, this is almost destroying me and my family and the ability to see my daughter, all those things that actually, when you get to a certain part of life, you realize that really is kind of the most important thing. And I kind of took that leap, and luckily it all worked out. But my partner, Georgie, she is very much on the safe side. She is kind of we have to have 6 months of money sitting in a bank account, otherwise we're taking zero risk. Even when we came to beginning to invest, I was very much put it all into 100% stocks. We're doing this, we're taking the risk because I've watched enough videos to know that's what I need to do. And she obviously was like, no, I'm not risking this money. What if we lose it all? So I think it's good to have kind of two ends of the scale to balance that out.
Absolutely.
What I find with emergency funds and a buffer, the biggest thing for me that I felt, and the people that I talk to about money, is the kind of mental aspect of it, the kind of safety of it. And I wanted to get your thoughts on an emergency fund, a buffer, but also just like money in general, how you feel that affects people's financial, physical, but most importantly, probably mental health.
Oh, that's a huge question. So money, you can't dispute that money is important in the world. You need to be able to, for the standard of living, that you need the basic necessities, and also where we live in the UK and all that kind of thing. Your mindset is everything, but I would touch the point, it's the same with leaving the corporate world. It's also just the faith that something is possible, and also being okay that it might fail, but you'll bounce back, or there'll be something comes along. My philosophy with money has certainly over the past couple of years become more like a spiritual and physical thing. So the way all of us interact and how money is just a medium that I transfer from you to between each other, because you've got something I can do that I can't. So we just use, it's been stones in the past, it's been salt, it's been all kinds of things, right? And the moment though we give that thing energy, or it means something of value, that's where the interaction and the relationships have. And that's what's always been my focus with money. It's making sure what I can put out there, I'm not then aware of the value in terms of money or what that'll bring, but I do believe it's offering service spiritually, mentally, it's got purpose, it's got value. So what ripples after that is a byproduct of that. It's in my own journey right now, there are days where you kind of go, right, got to go black and white logic, the bills have to be paid, all that. But I keep going back to this point, is I've always been looked after with money. And so I will know when things start to feel, uneasy, but equally, I'm still getting opportunities come my way. And that's the kind of mindset you have to be in. You have to be, say, right, okay, I'm good to receive what comes my way, and also know that I'll keep serving as best as I can. So money is this amazing thing. We might go deeper into I can
Absolutely.
talk about it.
No, it is, I think until you spend some time thinking about what money is, and the fact that it's a tool rather than just this thing that you need to achieve, and when you get it, something changes. That's kind of why I wanted to get your opinion on the kind of mental health aspect, because I've dealt with a lot of people with mental health issues in previous my previous role as a police officer, and a lot of the issues, not all of them obviously, but a lot of the issues stemmed from what I could determine as a result of something to do with money. So whether it was the situation they were in, their housing situation, their relationship as a result, being forced into that relationship because they couldn't afford another option, or I didn't realize until after I left the job, but when I look back, I think actually money played such a huge role, and people don't think about it unless they spend the time actually learning this stuff, which, as we know, most people don't. It took for me to type into Google or YouTube personal finance to get any of this information. It doesn't get taught to you at school. It doesn't get taught to you by most people's parents. How do you think we get that in front of more people? How do we show money in a sort of positive light? Because obviously, of course, we can continue to create content as we both do, but certainly with YouTube and Google, unless you're searching it yourself, you tend not to get forced this content upon you, which is kind of why, although TikTok is the devil, I create quite a lot of content on there for the reason that it is forced onto people unwillingly, in a good way.
Exactly.
In a good way, but in the sense that, like, there could be a funny cat video, and then the next video is about a pension, like.
And that's it. And in life, though, remember, there's really three key areas for everyone. It's money, relationships, and usually your health. Those are the kind of key areas. So if you're lacking in any of those, it's going to have an effect, and then, bring out stressors, mental health, and any of those things. You've touched upon money as one of the things that keeps people in relationships, that they're trapped. That's a serious issue. It also means that people don't do things, don't follow through on their dreams and goals because they use money as that barrier. Okay, I really want to move house, or I really want to leave my job, or I really want to go traveling. Oh, I can't. Okay, so it's shut down in that moment. And the flip side is just, but what if it was possible? What if the resources came to you, or you found a way? And my brain always goes to, there'll be a possibility somewhere. There'll be some way that we can actually make this happen, or it might not happen the way we want, but it could be possible. And so I think that's really key. How do we get conversations about money in front of more people? The algorithms and YouTube, we're not in control of, but I always hope that the right people will find my stuff. So the past, it's been 5 years nearly that I've been making content, and I don't know how people find me at all, which is just incredible, or if, maybe somebody will recognize you in the street, and it seems really strange to me, but I do know that you'll get it as well. The people, it'll just be the right video at the right time that will spark that little thing and go, oh, I get this, and they fly with it. That is the joy and the ripple effect you will never understand, and you're never meant to. You're never meant to know how many people you're affecting, I don't think, but it's the fact that you felt inspired to make that one video offer what you learned. Certainly my journey has been, I've been learning stuff, and I just couldn't find anyone who looked like me or talked like me. Like you named Dave Ramsey and Pete Matthews. When I started, I think that was it. Like, to be honest, me in front of a camera just going, let's have and now there's hundreds of us potentially. But that's the amazing thing, is that I didn't set out with the intention to be one of hundreds. It was just, I'm just going to share my journey, and that's what I'll keep doing really as well. So yeah, I just put it out there and just assume we just need to have more conversations about money.
I think you're right. And I think that authenticity is important, because if you're doing it to be the best content creator in the space, then you're going to end up creating content that's obviously, transparently fake. Like if you're talking about your own journey and the things that you expect, like I'm the same. And I think most people get into content creation, especially in this space, for that very reason, because they've had this revelation. They've watched a few videos on YouTube. They've potentially read a few books, listened to some podcasts, and it's resonated so much with them that they've applied some of that knowledge. They can see it works, and they want to just go and shout it at the top of the rooftop to everybody. So I think it's positive that there's hundreds, probably even more now. Like I see multiple a day popping up on Instagram, and which I think is a good thing. I think it's quite hard. Now is definitely a hard time to break into this very niche space that we're in. I think you obviously, you being one of the first ones in the UK doing it, obviously, and the quality of the content you created would have, put you above the rest anyway. I think they would have done. But I think now it's quite a saturated market, and I wonder what your thoughts are on that. And be as honest as be honest, because
I've got a wonderful analogy.
Go on.
Okay, so I'll tell you this story, and it stuck in my mind. One time, I was in Paris with the ex-partner at the time, and around Paris, the Eiffel Tower, there is, you get this in London as well, where people are selling all the stuff, all the souvenirs. So the whole way around the Eiffel Tower was all these sellers with like mini Eiffel Towers, mini little souvenirs, and every single one, this was like a meter distance apart, every single one was the exact same stuff, exact same. But each one of those guys or girls, whoever, they were giving it barter. Every time you went past, they were like, oh, come here. I don't know, it was French, but oh, come here. Right. They were selling like theirs was unique and special. Why was it unique and special? They believed they would get your business. And so every time when somebody says to me it was too saturated, or I shouldn't do that, I go, okay, hustle like those Eiffel Towers salesperson. They believe that you're going to buy from, you need to buy from them. And so, to be honest, if there's 1,000, 1,000,000, they're not you. They're not your secret journey, spice, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter if only you and your mum watch your content at the start. It does not matter. Because
I don't even think my mum watched it. It was just me.
But it doesn't matter, because if you're doing it for 1 million subscribers in day one, it might happen. It might not. And I think that's what people sense. It's, are you genuine? Are you wanting to help people? The money space right now, my only thing is I see a lot of clickbait, and that I don't enjoy that, because I think that plays on people's fear. You're just wanting watch time. You just want, right? I would rather see somebody, and this is what I'm going to focus on. I want to see the best video that matters to you, that's good. Don't just put it out to scare me or to make me think, oh, I need to take out all my investments, or I need to do this. Give me something really wholesome. Give me something that means something to you. And if it's one video a month, I don't know if you've ever seen, is it Mark Ron? I can't remember the guy with the squirrels and things like that. There's one.
Yes.
Like one video every month or one video every 2 months.
Yeah.
It costs millions of dollars to make, but 10, 20 million people watch them in the hour.
Yeah.
You want it to be like, people are like, yes, that is a video for me. So Eiffel Tower salesperson, put out videos. Don't worry about everyone else.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I think regardless of what the space is, as long as you're doing it to try and help people, which hopefully, bar the scammers, which sadly there are many in this space, I think everybody is quite genuine. And it definitely, whether you become a superstar YouTuber or podcaster, it's almost irrelevant, because you're probably helping yourself by learning this stuff. I certainly did. That's what motivated me from the beginning, and still does now. I constantly reading books, I'm constantly listening to podcasts and learning new things every single day. And then whenever I learn something I find interesting, I then create some sort of content around it. And I think the ones that are doing it for clickbait, it's never gonna last. They might get some sort of success, but they're never gonna get that longevity. And I think the people who have succeeded in the space, you included, those three big Mount Rushmore finance names that I mentioned, the consistency has been from the beginning. You know, the message has never changed. You're not, just because COVID happened, you didn't completely change your tactic and you know, start creating loads of content about Bitcoin, because at the time it was exploding, and then that's just, you became the in thing. You know, if you're consistently talking about the principles of money that work from the beginning, and you're still doing it now through like 2 financial crises, you know, from when you started, then obviously you're being authentic. And I think content creation takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, which is something for the last 2 years I have very much learned. And a lot of people don't have the patience and time to do it. So I always say to anybody, like, just do it. Just spend, even if it's the worst video in the world, which mine definitely were. If you go back and watch like 2 years ago, I watched it the other day, actually, my first ever YouTube video, and it was the most like tiniest audio on my old phone, and it's quite awkward to watch now, but at the time I was quite proud of what I did, because like I took that leap into like actually creating content. So I really encourage anybody and everybody to do it. So I'm not discouraged by the number of people talking about money. If that reaches more people, and like you said, that ripple effect, if that person has 20 followers and just one of those people goes out there and does something good for their finances, I'm on board with.
A whole family, a whole generation. Like, you never know that one
Absolutely.
person. Like, my whole attitude of money was changed by just that. This is not good enough. You know, this is not the way for my life. Picking up books. Well, you don't know. Then, you know, my boys are seeing that. Also, the people around me. And something that's very important. I'd like to think that it's a little bit different from other people that I'm kind of preaching and making sure I cover, is about the concept of giving with money. And I think that it's not just that we save, invest, and use money, kind of hoard it. I also believe it's absolutely got to have the giving principle there. And that is a deep kind of spiritual level aspect of it as well. You know, every time I receive, I think, okay, I've been able to receive that, but equally I can now pass that on. This, you know, it can keep going on and on and on. And I don't think there's too many people explain finances like that in that detail. So yeah, I'm happy to be one of the people.
You're right. I think or Dave Ramsey, but he's obviously heavily kind of religious aspect stuff, which I believe you're religious too. And do you think that because you're religious, that is the reason why, or have you just, you know, I mean, I don't know if you're religious past or when you became religious, but do you think that kind of influenced it, or do you feel like that's an innate thing that you had before?
It was only really in my journey and reading different materials. So I read a lot of like kind of solid black and white financial books, you know, talking about the stock market, and then also moved on to prosperity books. So prosperity being spiritual laws around money and life design. And it was that when I really looked at it and went, okay, this is a principle around money that is fundamental, thousands of years old, about they call it a tithe, but it's really just about a percentage. And it's all about the philosophy I receive, but equally I can give out with security as well, and know that I'm helping other people or making things better. And I said to myself, okay, this one principle is the one thing that I'm really struggling with. Like this is how I was brought up. Was money came in, but I didn't think about really anything. You put in charity boxes, you do think, absolutely, we all have that kindness in us, but it wasn't a consistent thing that was in my mind. And I just said to myself, right, I'm going to prove if this works. I'm going to prove if this principle really does benefit me, so I can then teach about it. And when I started applying it, and so I do that, it's 10% minimum or over and up,
That's what tithe means, isn't it? Is it 10%?
Yeah. So I do it 10%, and that's my business, personal money, anything, in that respect. I then look for inspiration of where it's to go. So I'll say to myself, is it to go to this person, this charity, this church, wherever? I applied that principle, and this is only me, it doesn't, but it was like, I was able to 10 times my income. And also I'm looking at my own journey this year, where I could never have predicted getting out of, what I've been through this year, to come out of that and still be able to say, okay, I've been looked after, that there has been money that I can recover, I can be and, go through all abuse and everything, recover and be here today. So if that one principle, I can equate it as helping me, that's good enough for me. And so I'm going to keep teaching about because at the end of the day, we never know who's out there looking for that extra little inspiration to someone, that they're struggling to pay a bill, or they're struggling, you walk past people in the street, you could be the only person that actually sees them, and you go, do you know what, I'm going to ask you, do you want a sandwich, can I buy you? It's those kind of nudges. So yes, it does come from a religious backing, but I've also proved it in my life. And I think that is really, some people really, really struggle with this. It's like, no, I don't want to give. And I would say, okay, your way seems to be working for you. How about you try it? How about we just give it a go and then see if it doesn't change your heart in any way.
What do you think it is that's within people? And I can definitely resonate with it, because up until I actually, again, started learning and reading about giving away and the whole idea of the universe giving it back to you. And I'm not religious. I don't necessarily view the world in that way. But once reading it and actually internalizing it, I then started to give money away myself.
Yes.
And not only do you feel good, I don't know whether it's something that because you're being more generous with your money and potentially your time, you kind of give up more of back to authenticity. You give off that kind of vibe if you do care about people, and perhaps that has something to do with money, then people trusting you, and you're more likely to be given money, or your products are being bought, or whatever it is that the service you're providing. People are more likely to trust you. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. But then also the lack and growth mindset, I think, has a huge role to play in that. And it was only about 3 years ago before I kind of got all my finances in order. So it's very fresh in my mind, that lack mindset. And I feel like I've beaten that mindset out of me with a big stick now. And I think that part of me feels gone. Hopefully it is. But I can resonate with why people think that, because they're just scared. They don't know if money's going to come their way again.
Absolutely. And it's not about needing to, so the way I teach it, it's not about having to hit 10% or a certain amount. It is, if you're saying, oh, well, Jennifer, I can barely afford my cost of living, there's not any food in the, it's like, okay, if it's not just money, if it's not a penny that you can find to give, you can still maybe think, I've got a can of soup that I see somebody else's need. It's that generosity mindset. And in my place right now, where I have been able to pay the bills even through a turbulent time and figure out stuff, I'm still being mindful that I see needs of other single people or women, and just go, right, this month I'm good, I'm going to make sure that I help someone. This feels the right thing to do. I just think it changes your heart and your mindset. I just think it's as simple as that. And what I found is people come towards me as well with similar mindsets. So again, it's a pleasure to work with people. like this conversation is lovely and incredible, and I hope it's going to do a ripple effect for you. But would you have approached, we've got a similar mindset then, and that's the great thing, brought this conversation to me that then other people can benefit from as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, well, from a perspective of growth mindset, then, do you think people have that, or do you think it develops?
I think everyone has the built-in trust, growth, love in there. I think it's perhaps circumstance and growing up that maybe keeps it shut down. So, for example, I've got 2 boys. Their nature is to think about their friends and things like that. And I was just in the school there. One of my boys wasn't very well, needed CalPol, that emergency CalPol, and he was saying, "Oh, mummy, I couldn't find my snack, but it's okay. So and so gave me some of their crisps." So that's like a 6-year-old, and I know for a fact lots of your viewers they'll have been the kids at the school with the pack, you pack lunch. You're like, "Oh, that so and so hasn't got a sandwich." You wouldn't even consider if they don't have enough money. You're just like, "Oh, well, you can have half a sandwich. You can, or sweeties, right? You can have some of my sweetie." I think it's actually there. I think what happens is society or upbringing keeps it pushed down. And sometimes it's about just reigniting it again if you choose to.
Yeah, it's the corporate rat race, I suppose, that keeps you living month to month and worrying about next month rather than your own future. And then once that is potentially in order, then you can then help other people. I think you're right, and I agree with you, and I hope that's true, because I definitely had a lack mindset, and I definitely feel like I have a growth mindset now. So I know it's possible, and the only thing that changed was applied knowledge. Because it can't just be knowledge; it was the knowledge, and then actually seeing the physical result. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, last question for you. I wanted to get from your perspective. Obviously, you've been creating content for quite a long time, consistently, and I'm assuming there's a lot of analogies there to finances. And I can feel, after doing this for 3 years and budgeting every month and looking at my investments and changing them and upping them and being, I'm really transparent with what I do with my investments. I literally show my portfolio. I want other people to see exactly what I do, what I've done. But even now, I sometimes find it hard to be consistent, even though everything's automatic. Things like budgeting, like how do you think people, once they've learned this stuff, stay motivated and also consistent?
Oh, that's a good question. Again, it's just another principle. So if you are managing anything, your time, your energy, your health, you have to have some kind of plan. And I mean, obviously, life is flexible, but it's just that basic necessity. If you want a house to live in, you know that you need food, even on those fundamental levels, they're going to cost a certain amount of money regardless. And so in some way you might not want to budget, but just to make sure that you're getting everything covered and that base for your basic needs, you kind of need to. And so that's what always keeps me going, is every month the budget doesn't really change, but there's lots of flexibility in there as well. So I am an absolute firm believer in you should have fun money in your budget. And obviously I'm going to say this with context. I realize a lot of people might not get to that extent. They're just kind of covering their means. And I would really implore you to never think that you're stuck there. Never think that you're meant to struggle. It's meant to be that you're open to ideas and opportunities and things coming your way. That's a whole, there's lots of videos and a whole other topic. But a budget that allows for it should have fun money, should have thinking about your future, your kids' future, giving, all those aspects that mean that if you do want to, and fun money I call really, it's like your freedom money. Like, do you want to travel? Do you want to go and go back to school, design your own home? You should have that guilt-free money in there. And I think the problem with some of the philosophies, I'll use Dave Ramsey's name, baby steps for me, I'm a bit, I don't, it's quite as perfect as a lot of people might enjoy it. I think that's what's missing in a lot of these quite black and white, rigid structures where you must do it this way, you must do the snowball method, you must do this. There's no sense of the person being able to decide what's right. So we paid off £24,000 worth of debt. It was not the snowball. It was chuck as much money as quickly as as I want rid of that debt. It's as
Yeah.
simple as that. And I also started investing at the same time. I also started giving.
Dave
So
Ramsey wouldn't be happy about that.
you might have me on one day. That'd be quite fun. But do you know what I mean? For someone to tell me you must do this, I get the logic, but where's the emotion? And it could be a little bit of feminine energy kind of mixing in with money. You know, money can be very black and white, and we associate that with the masculine, very kind of, right, hunter, I'm going out to get, this is what you do. But I actually think we need that softness. We need that. I would encourage, like, you and your partner, have those conversations, listen to her worries, you know, decide as a unit, this is important to us, regardless of what the investments say. Okay, maybe we can go less in investments, maybe less savings, because actually we want to go to Disneyland, or we want to buy. Do you see what I mean? It should be that open dialogue with all conversations.
Absolutely. I think that's where it comes back to what we said in the beginning. I'm very much more of a risk taker. She's very much somebody who is not. So having that conversation, it's interesting what you said there about that feminine energy, because I think that's actually really true. And I think the space, maybe it's just the people who I follow and the profiles that, you know, get put in front of me via the algorithm of YouTube and Instagram, that sort of stuff. But there does seem to be a lot of feminine energy in the finance space now, and which I think is only a good thing. And I think the things that you're talking about pop up on my feed pretty much every day now.
Good.
Yeah. Because if you think back, like, I mean, again, we'll use Dave Ramsey's name again, but the people like him and people who are famous for creating content about money before him and the books that are out there, unless you can correct me, the 95+% all men.
Predominantly, like very, very few female books at the time. I couldn't find a female book, I don't think, when I started like 6-7 years ago. Now we're seeing obviously a huge wave of content creators and books, which is incredible. I've got a book out as well and kind of working on some ideas. I like the fact that we're getting this holistic picture, and I also think it's okay to say you can decide what view is right for you. Like, that's the way with all content. We can like people, we can like how they deliver it, but don't just absolutely do what they do without testing it out and say, actually, you know what, I respect you, but I don't agree with you on that part. Because of a lot of culture, money can be quite black and white, and it worked for a lot of these gurus. Remember, it was their blueprint, so they absolutely believe in it. Like, they believe it's the right thing.
And that's how you get it out to the masses, isn't it? People like anybody who has a system of money, the only way to get it out to the masses is to say, do this, do this, do this, do this. You can't tailor it to the individual unless you kind of have a sit-down conversation like we are and ask, you know, specific questions and tailor your advice accordingly. So I think that is potentially the old style, especially when it was a book before TV, radio, podcasts, and that sort of stuff. It very much had to be kind of a little bit clickbaity of, you know, just do this and then this will happen. And I resonate quite a lot with that, because even though I tend to agree with you about the baby steps, they were a very good starting point. And I think giving that structure to something that has never had structure in someone's life, certainly for me, to say, have an emergency fund, then get out of debt, whether it's whatever method you use, just get out of debt, and then, you know, start investing. So if knowing that framework, actually, if it gets you going, and then afterwards you can kind of say, actually, you know what, maybe that isn't the best method for me, and then you can start being a bit more holistic. I think that if it gets you going, great. But I tend to agree, the holistic approach I enjoy.
Good. There we go.
Jennifer, I know your time is very valuable, so I won't keep you any longer. Where can people find you if they want to follow you, get your books, or anything to do with Mamafurfur?
So I'm very thankful if you search on YouTube, Mamafurfur, you'll find me pop up. My YouTube channel is the main source, really, to me. I've got a website, mamafurfur.com. You can find me on Instagram. I'm not really on TikTok. Maybe I'll try.
You're missing a trick.
I'll maybe try. I'll do my dance routines.
You have cats, don't you?
You find the two. I like it. I've got a book. If you search on Amazon, Jennifer Kempson, you find my Master Money Blueprint. There might be more books coming down the line. I feel that.
Spoiler.
A spoiler alert. But yeah, you can find me basically on YouTube and Instagram. So thank you for having me. This has been a delight.
No worries. Thank you, Jennifer. Bye-bye.